Right now, and we're continuing to watch this in real time, the Russian economy is spiraling. The ruble plummeting by about 30% against the dollar, now worth less than 1 cent after the West tightened sanctions. And as lawmakers here and abroad are debating even harsher sanctions, we're seeing a literal barrage of businesses step in. In just the last 48 hours, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ both halted trading for Russian-based companies. BP and Shell dumped their stakes in 2 Russian gas giants. In the sports world, the NHL and FIFA took steps to punish Russia. And in Hollywood, multiple studios are pausing Russian releases, and that's not even close to the full list. Let me bring in CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin, co-author of Squawk Box and founder of the New York Times Deal Book. Always good to see you, Andrew.
Great to see you.
I know that different companies are different, but give us a reality check. How much of this is intended to hurt Russia? How much of it is simply concern about instability in Russia, in Ukraine? How much of this is PR?
I think more of this is symbolic than anything else. It's not going to have a huge impact, but hopefully will send some kind of signal to Putin about the way the West and the rest of the world is going to think about doing business with them in the future, especially if things continue to spiral in this way. Right now, when I said it's not going to have a huge impact, the truth is this is not going to have an economic impact in Russia. Oil and gas is the business of Russia. Commodities are the business of Russia. And so until and unless Europe effectively says we're not buying oil and gas at all from Russia, you're not going to be able to say it's anything, frankly, more than sort of symbolism here. Having said that, I will say that you see companies like BP and Shell, as you said, selling pieces of their business that were connected to Russia. Exxon has a relationship with a Russian energy company as well. And so that is a little bit of a different situation. But having said that, as symbolic or not as that may be, in some ways they're selling those businesses now on the cheap. And guess who the beneficiary is? It's going to be sold back to Russia. They're going to be the beneficiaries because they're going to be selling it at the lowest price point. And the truth is that the value of those assets are still going to have real value unless until the rest of Europe and the rest of the world doesn't want to import the oil and gas from Russia.
Yeah, and to a lot of people who don't understand the way the global economy works, which is most of us, that all just sounds insane. Like, it almost sounds like Putin has us in a box, American people sitting at home and thinking, well, I'm already seeing it in my gas prices. I live in California. They're telling me I might see $6 a gallon, and there are potentially other economic repercussions. What are Americans looking at right now? Because it's something the president's going to have to address in the State of the Union tonight.
Absolutely. And this is just part of the larger inflation story that we're seeing in the United States. And it's being exacerbated by the situation in Russia, in part because to the extent that we're going to be exporting oil and the like, and others are as well, to make up for some of the sales that hopefully will not be sold from Russia. That's going to push up the cost across the board. The question, of course, is what can be done about it? And the answer, unfortunately, is very little. The Federal Reserve, we expect to be hearing from this week, planning to raise interest rates. Maybe that tamps down some demand a little bit. But this is, as we've talked about, a supply story more than anything else.
Andrew Ross Sorkin, always great to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thanks.